computer. Shalom, shalom, shalom. So today we're going to be telling you a story that definitely did not ever happen. This is a story that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov made up, but it carries with it an amazing, amazing lesson that we'll talk about at the end. The story, I'm going to give it a name. The story is called Hold On. Wait, hold on? No, yeah, hold on. No, hold on. That's the name of the story. The story is called Hold On. It's sometimes in life we need to really hold on and keep our emunah so strong to get through difficult times. I'm just going to make a bracha now. Everybody can hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. You can hear me? Can you hear me? Show me a thumbs up. Great. Excellent. Okay. One time, there was a Jew who was very, very poor. His name was Yankala. He was so poor, the only way he could find any parnasa was to sell earth. Yes, to sell earth. He would go with his horse to somewhere deep in the forest and find a nice deserted place that wasn't owned by anyone, take out a big shovel and spend hours and hours digging up earth, putting it into big, big canvas bags, loading them onto his horse, and go back to the marketplace where he would set up his booth and he would sell earth. Other people were selling apples, other people were selling oranges, other people were selling clothes, and he was selling earth. That's all that he could do because he didn't have any field that he owned. He had nothing that he could grow. He didn't have enough money or skill to make any clothes. But he had a big shovel, a good trusty horse, some nice canvas bags, and there was plenty of earth all around outside the town that he could go and dig up. And people would pay him a few pennies for his earth, and they would take it home and make gardens with it and do whatever they needed with the earth that he was selling. And one day, while he was digging the earth, an amazing thing happened. He found a humongous diamond. It was like as big as my hand. Huge, crazy. He couldn't believe it. He never saw anything like this before. And he decided, wow, this is amazing. Right away, saddled up his horses, took whatever earth he had, and went back into the town and went to the jeweler. And he asked the jeweler, look at this, look what I found in the ground while I was digging out my earth. The jeweler looked at it through his special glass, and he said, wow, Yankala, this is incredible. No one in this town has ever seen a jewel as that big. It was as big as my hand. Humongous diamond. No one's ever seen anything like this before around here. I said, you know what? I don't think I can even tell you how much money this jewel is worth. Nobody here can even know. You have to go. You've got to travel to London, England. In London, that's where they do some very serious trade in very fancy jewels. You've got to take a boat. First, you've got to take a boat all the way to England. And when you get there, take it. And he gave him the name of a very fancy, world-renowned jeweler, a person who deals with these fancy, fancy stones. And he'll tell you how much it's worth. And there are people there in England who are rich enough who will buy from you. He said, Yankala, all your troubles are over. You will never have to dig earth again. You are going to be a multi-millionaire. Multi-millionaire means you're going to have many millions and millions of, what was in Russia, rubles. That's the word they had, like we have shekels or there are dollars. You're going to have multi-millions of rubles, but you can't even figure out how much it's worth here. You have to go to England and take a boat, and there they'll tell you how much it's worth, and there you'll find someone to buy this incredible jewel that you have found. Yankele was just amazed. His whole life changed from just being a simple Jew who's digging earth and selling it in the marketplace. Suddenly he's going to be traveling all the way to England. What a crazy concept. He decided, okay, I'll do it. And he rode with his horse to the port. The port is the place where you get ships, where you can get on a ship. And he met the captain, and the captain said, oh, sure, I'm going to England. It will cost you. And he named him a very large price. Yankele had no money. And Yankele said, listen, I don't have any money right now, but look, he pulled out the jewel. This was as big as my hand. He said, look at this diamond. This is worth multi-millions. I'm going to go to England and sell this diamond, and I will pay you very well for both the trip to England and the trip back from England. Captain looked at this jewel and he couldn't believe it. He said, wow, I've never seen anything like that. Of course, please, I'll give you a first-class cabin, the best spot in the whole ship. You rolled out the red carpet. You're definitely invited onto my ship. Please, Yankele, it's our honor to have you traveling with us to England. So Yankele couldn't believe his luck. He got into his room. He never slept in such a nice room, even in his actual house. It was so fancy. It was so beautiful, with all beautiful pillows and beautiful wood desk, and everything was just so fancy. Paintings on the wall. He never saw anything like it. And every few days, the captain himself would knock on the door and would bring in an even fancier food than he would. Every day he got fancy food. When the captain came, he would get even fancier food. And they would sit together and talk about what they were going to do with all their money once they got to England. Because the captain was also bringing a lot of merchandise. Merchandise means things that he's going to sell in England. The captain also had not just one jewel. He had the whole bottom of the ship was filled with all different kinds of things, with wheat and with clothes and some fruits and potatoes. He had tons of stuff. It was worth even much more than the jewel that Yankele was bringing with him. And they were talking and laughing, and they had great times together. And this is how his trip went, but it took many weeks of being on the ship. And one day, Yankele was sitting and having lunch by himself, and he decided, as he often did, to just take out the jewel and just look at it. He often, at his meals and often just during the day, would look at this amazing thing, and he would thank Hashem. Wow, Hashem, I can't believe what you've done for little old Yankele. My life is really going to change. It's so amazing. And while he was looking at it this time, he fell asleep while he was eating his meal. And one of the ship's hands, it means one of the servants on the ship, came by and saw Yankele had fallen asleep. And he just cleared away everything with the tablecloth and just took it over to the side of the ship and emptied it all out into the ocean. And guess what fell into the ocean with all of Yankele's leftover food? Oh no! That great jewel, it was as big as my hand, made a little splash, and it was gone. But no one noticed. Not the ship's servant, not Yankele. He was asleep. Then Yankele woke up, and for a minute, I was a bit disoriented. Where am I? What's going on? Oh yeah, I'm on the ship. Oh yeah, I was eating. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be rich. And Hashem gave me the jewel. The jewel. Where's that? Where's the jewel? He started to get very worried. And then he remembered that he had been looking at the jewel and thanking Hashem for the jewel. And he had fallen asleep. And he saw there was no more tablecloth and no more food. He quickly ran down to the kitchens. And with a crazy look on his face, he said, who cleaned my table? Who cleaned my table? Who cleaned my table? Till they found the man who had come by and cleaned. He said, did you clean off my table? I said, yes. He said, what did you do with everything that was on the table? I said, oh, well, the same thing I always do. I just put, like we do today with our plastic. You take the plastic off the table, just throw the whole thing in the garbage with all the extra food. I just took the whole tablecloth. I kept the tablecloth, but I shook it off into the ocean. And that's what I did. Same thing I do every day. Yankele couldn't believe his ears. He walked back up to his room feeling so bad and so worried. And he thought, well, maybe it just rolled off the side of the table. Maybe it's still somewhere in my room. And he looked at every inch of his fancy schmancy room in the ship. He looked everywhere. Oh my goodness. What happened to my jewel? Suddenly there was a knock on the door. And it was the captain. The captain had come. Every few days, like we said, the captain would come and bring in food, and they would have lunch together and talk about all the things they were going to do once they were rich, when they get to England. And Yankele is thinking to himself, wow, what do I do? Captain came in. Yankele quickly turned around and lifted his eyes to Shamayim. And he said, Hashem, Yankele, I trust you. You're the one who gave me that jewel to begin with. And you're the one who took it away. And he said this in a low voice so the captain wouldn't hear. And I trust you, Hashem. That somehow, everything is going to turn out okay. And he said it with such emunah, such faith, that his heart stopped beating so fast and he was able to calm down and turn around and put a smile on his face. Say, hello, Captain. Let's sit and have some lunch. And they sat and they had their lunch. Captain didn't notice anything different about Yankele, even though Yankele had just lost his jewel. Didn't notice anything different because Yankele had so much emunah that the same Hashem who gave him the jewel is the same Hashem who took it away, and Hashem will take care of him. And Yankele davened really, really strong. The next few days and weeks, wow, it was hard for him. It was very hard for him, but he really davened, and he had a lot of emunah. And every time the captain came in, he saw that he was in a happy mood. Then, it was just a few days before they reached England. The captain came in one more time, and the captain said, we're almost there. And he said to Yankele, when we get to England, I'm going to come off of this ship with lots and lots. Like I told you, the whole bottom of the ship is filled with merchandise. I've got fancy dresses. I've got fancy suits. I've got wheat. I've got potatoes. I've even got wood, some cedar wood that I picked up in Lebanon. Till today, the flag of Lebanon has the cedar tree on it. I've got so many different kinds of very expensive and important things that many people are going to buy. And like we spoke about, I'm going to be a rich man. But I'm worried that when we get there, they're going to charge me too much taxes, and people are going to be too suspicious about me coming in with so much stuff. Just one man coming with so much stuff. Said, here's what I'd like to do. I want to sign over half of everything I have in the ship. I'm going to sign it over to you. Take out a contract. We'll put your name on it. And I want to do this. I trust you because I see you're such a happy, wonderful guy, and you're a rich man anyway with that jewel you've got. Yankele kept a straight, happy face. And he said, sure, Captain, if you think it will help you, to get into England without having trouble, without the government giving you too much trouble, and without people may be coming to try and steal from you. If you think that this is the best thing, I'll be happy to sign on the contract. The captain said, great, I really appreciate it. And he brought in one of his assistants, and they took out a very fancy piece of paper, and they wrote down a very official contract, and they had witnesses, and they even had a lawyer there, and they officially made Yankele the owner of half of everything that was on the ship. Tons and tons of stuff, worth much more than that amazing jewel that Yankele had lost. They arrived in England. But I forgot an important point. Just before that, after they signed, they were so happy. You know what they did? They started to dance. The captain was so happy, and Yankele just went with his emunah very strong, and the captain was singing whatever song he was singing, and Yankele was thinking in his mind, Mitzvah gedola liyois besimcha tamid. Mitzvah gedola liyois besimcha tamid. Hay, mitzvah gedola liyois besimcha. Mitzvah gedola liyois besimcha. And he really felt simcha. It was just amazing for him signing this crazy contract. He had no idea what was going to happen when he got there. He didn't have the jewel, but he trusted in Hashem, really strong. And they were dancing, and everything seemed fine. Then they arrived in England, and everybody was starting to get off of the ship, and there were lots and lots of people, and it was a very, very busy time. All the other people on the ship were going off and meeting their friends, and they had the big, huge crates, big, humongous boxes of all the fancy dresses and the fancy suits and the wheat and the potatoes and the cedar wood that was stowed under the ship that belonged half to the captain and half to Yankele. And the captain told Yankele, by the way, of course, he's not meaning to really give this to Yankele forever. It will really belong to the captain. It will just help the captain get his stuff in. He didn't mean for Yankele to really own it forever. It was just to help him to get that merchandise into England that nobody would steal from him. But any money, once it was sold, would all, of course, only go to the captain. The whole thing of signing the contract was only so that people wouldn't steal from them and so the government wouldn't take too many taxes from the captain. So everything was, it was a very busy time. Everybody was getting off the ship, and they were loading out all these big crates. And Yankele was just watching everything. He was a very simple yid from a little town. All he knew before this was just shoveling earth and selling the earth in the marketplace. He was watching this whole parade, and then suddenly he saw a very strange thing. He saw a bunch of doctors running hurriedly onto the ship. He said, "What's happening?" He said, "What's going on? Who's sick?" And someone said, "It's the captain." And Yankele said, "What? The captain is sick?" And he decides he's going to go in after them to do the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim, to visit the sick. And he went in, and he saw the captain was really, really sick. The captain said, "I've never felt this bad in my whole life." And he was so sick, he couldn't even leave the ship. And for the next few days, every day Yankele went to visit him. And then it was so horrible and so sad. The captain died. The captain left the world. Suddenly, a whole bunch of lawyers said, "Are you Yankele, the Jew, from such and such a town?" Yankele says, "Yes." And they said, "We have this contract here. You are the owner of half of everything that's on this ship." And Yankele couldn't believe it. He thought to himself, I wasn't really supposed to own this. This was just in order to help the captain bring everything into England. But now look what happened. He turned around quickly and he said, Hashem, thank you. I can't believe it. It's so sad that the captain died, but this is crazy. Thank you, Hashem, thank you. He turned around and he walked with them off of the ship where there was a fancy hotel that they brought him into. And there were some big businessmen there who were buying all the fancy dresses and all the fancy suits and all the potatoes and all of the cedar wood. And he went in and they said, Yankele, all the lawyers said, here, look, Yankele, sign here and sign here and sign here, and everything's being sold. And you have 50%. And they started piling him on with bags and bags of gold, multi-millions, billions, much more than the jewel that he originally found, as big as my hand, was ever worth. Yankele could not believe it. He took out his little book of Tehillim and started to really thank Hashem, and he was crying. He couldn't believe it. The whole way back on a ship back, a different ship, felt like it was a dream, and he came into his town and just what became the biggest Baal Tzedakah, the biggest giver of charity in his whole town, and took care of everyone. And there were no more poor people in his town because he took care of everyone, and he built a brand new fancy shul and a brand new yeshiva, and wow, he was just flying. Rabbi Nachman, when he told this story, he said the following amazing thing. He said that the jewel that Yankele first found was never really his. But half of all of the merchandise on that ship, that was truly his. This is an amazing thing. So what's the proof that the jewel was never really his? The proof is that he lost it. And what's the proof that the merchandise, that all of the amazing stuff on the ship and all the gold that came from it, that really was his? Because he really kept it for his whole life. What do we learn about what it means for something to be yours? And what do we learn from the title of this story, which is, hold on. Oh yeah. Hold on is the name of the story. What did Yankele have to do? He had to hold on and have such emunah. When that jewel was lost, he thought, oh no, I've lost everything. But because he's turned to Hashem in that time of great loss, he couldn't imagine, how am I going to pay for my ticket on the ship? What have I done? I've left everything behind. How will I ever even get home from England? He didn't get too upset. He had emunah, and he had such simcha that the ship's captain felt, you're the man, Yankele, you're the man that I want to trust to take 50% of my merchandise. And then that truly became his. So we see from the story a few amazing things. First of all, when Hashem gives us an opportunity, when he found that first gem, he could have said, to travel to England is too far. Maybe it's not worth it. He could have told the jeweler, I'll sell it to you for much less than it's worth. But he didn't do that. He said, I'll go for it. Hashem is giving me an opportunity. I'm going to try. Let's see where this will bring me. I am going to try, even though I've never been to England and I don't know anything about jewels, but I'm going to try even so. And we also see from this story how big of a deal it is to have emunah in Hashem, even when what we think everything depends on gets lost. Oh my gosh, we have to remember, the same Hashem who gave me the jewel is the same Hashem who took it away. This Am Yisrael has to remind themselves all the time through our whole long gullus. The same Hashem who took us to Eretz Yisrael is the same Hashem who's sending us out with Nebuchadnezzar. Can you imagine the Jews were taken out from Eretz Yisrael wearing chains around their neck like animals, and they thought, we'll never get back to Eretz Yisrael. But they were able to say, the same Hashem, right, who gave them koach, the Navi Yechezkel told them, don't worry. The same Hashem who was with you in Eretz Yisrael is with you in Bavel. And that was so long ago. That was like 2,500 years ago. And we got back again, built a second Beis HaMikdash. And then the second Beis HaMikdash got destroyed. We had to say, oh, the same Hashem who gave us the second Beis HaMikdash will one day give us back. And we have to have such a munah for so long. Like those long weeks on the ship, they had to have so much emunah. Can you imagine 2,000 years? But guess what, Kindalach? Here we are, we're sitting in Beit Shemesh. We're sitting, I have the Kotel here behind me. We're sitting in Eretz Yisrael. Hashem really did bring us back. Now we have a challenge. Hashem sent this disease, this magefa. We have to know the same Hashem who gives us our health is the same Hashem who sometimes brings a sickness. And we don't understand why, and we don't understand what's going on. But we can have our emunah, we can still sing and say, Mitzvah gedayla liyais besimcha tamid. Mitzvah gedayla liyais besimcha. Mitzvah gedayla liyais besimcha. Ay, mitzvah gedayla liyais besimcha. Imagine Yaakov dancing with the captain, not knowing how is he going to get past this? Doesn't have the jewel. How am I even ever going to get home? What's my whole life going to be? He has no idea. But he kept his emunah. He was able to turn around and face Hashem. And another big lesson is when it all changed and he saw that suddenly he does have even more money than the jewel was ever worth. He didn't forget about Hashem. He turned around and thanked Hashem. He turned around and thanked Hashem really, really strong. So remember, sometimes people only remember Hashem when things are hard. You have to remember Hashem when things are good, and when Hashem changes things and gives us our simcha back and gives us back and even more than we could ever have imagined. As Hashem Kindalach, it's so good to see you. And Lag BaOmer is coming. In just a couple of days, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai spent a whole year all alone in a cave, hiding from the Romans. Can you imagine? They had to hide so much, he had to put himself into the earth all the way up to his neck, him and his son Rabbi Elazar. They're just like two little heads hiding in the earth and nobody would see them. But they kept their emunah so strong. They said, the same Hashem who made everything good for us and taught us so much Torah, the same Hashem making us run away from the Romans. We don't understand why, we don't understand what. And guess what? Eliyahu HaNavi came to that cave and taught them the deepest secrets of the Torah. And it's thanks to their emunah in that cave when they came out that we have the Zohar HaKadosh, that we have all the incredible teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because they held on when they were in isolation. They were in bidud, right? Where were they? They were all alone. They had no idea what's going to be. They were stuck for a whole year. We had just a few months. They were stuck a whole year in bidud, all alone. But thanks to their emunah, we have all the amazing teachings and Torahs of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We have the Zohar HaKadosh and the great inspiration and the great simcha of Lag BaOmer. So, Chag Sameach, and sending you lots of love and encouragement. Chaim l'chaim.